Welcome to Boombostic Health, where we challenge the business of healthcare and explore bold ideas that drive meaningful change. Each week, we bring you candid conversations with top experts, innovators, and leaders, exploring the latest trends and technologies shaping the future of healthcare. Join us and be part of the conversation in transforming healthcare.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Boombostic Health. I'm your host, Bradley Bostic. This week, we've got a couple of things going for us. One is I found somebody else in health tech who actually lived in South Dakota at one point. So that's exciting. But two is somebody who knows the practical application of artificial intelligence into the existing enterprise software space within healthcare. There's a lot of talk about AI. There's a lot of focus on some futuristic concepts, but there hasn't been as much discussion or really enough time yet for enough people to know how to apply this kind of AI technology to all of the existing software systems that are out there. So with me today is Jason Wenell, who is now the Chief Product Officer at where, in full disclosure, I am CEO. And Jason, importantly, has had the last couple of years advising companies on product strategy and specifically on how to add AI into their strategies. And before that, had a wealth of experience with other healthcare technology companies. Really excited to have you here on the show, Jason.
Great to be here, Bradley. Yeah.
So maybe you could just give us a bit of an introduction. We're here in our studio in Indianapolis today, but you live in the Minneapolis area.
Yep. Right in the heart of Minneapolis. And like you said, there's not many technologists from South Dakota, but good that we connected on that. Also on the sports front, I played basketball in college, and I know you were also a college athlete as well.
I tried to be. I started admitting that very often now that my Hoosiers are undefeated at football and are looking amazing. We've got some players.
Actually, you're looking good this year. Yeah.
Oregon's coming up. You know this?
No, they're not.
Next weekend is Oregon.
Okay. All right.
And so that's going to be a real test. And we'll see just how ready the team is for that level of competition. I think they're ready.
Yeah, it'll be a good match to watch.
So you follow basketball more, though, and you're a Timberwolves fan?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we just keep coming close, right? This is like the curse of Minnesota sports. So if you 4 Super Bowls, haven't won, Timberwolves keep making it to the playoffs. But this will be our year, I think. Second, the 2 overseas games, I've been impressed that they've been able to keep it together. I haven't won at the last second. So yeah, Vikings, Timberwolves, we're doing okay in Minnesota. Our Twins, not so much. So you don't want to watch that way.
So talk to me about how you got into healthcare and then specifically how you've gotten exposed to AI. And how that's all played out in your career.
I mean, being in digital tech the last 20 years, I've always been attracted to industries that have this mix of doing good for humanity and unique technology. Whether I've been in ed tech, fintech, and then the last 9 years, digital health. And I've seen many waves of technology innovation come through, right? From obviously internet to mobile. And now really AI, as everyone's saying, is actually worth the hype. It is as big as everyone says it is and will revolutionize every industry. And it's certainly doing it right here in healthcare.
Right. And so the couple of examples we had spoken about, LifeSpark, Kiddo, those were a couple that I recall.
Yep.
You want to just touch on maybe some of the high level ways companies like that might be applying AI into what was an existing technology stack?
Definitely. So LifeSpark, which was based out of Minneapolis, was really innovative in taking a services business and putting a layer of value-based care of technology and services on top of that. And anytime you transition from a fee for service to value-based care, data is at the heart of that, and being able to be more predictive in your care to have better outcomes is a huge part of winning when you talk about value-based care. And so at LifeSpark, we got to build really a first of its kind EMR focused on outcomes. And the cool thing was about that, we got to work everything from working with payers from a business intelligence standpoint, the coders as far as documentation, the patients themselves, the caregivers. We got to use and build a really rich data platform that then powered next best action insights across that full ecosystem. And obviously it was considered more machine learning at the time, but we started to layer on different AI to be more and more effective in how we did prediction around even things such as loneliness. A senior that's lonely tends to go to the ER a lot. So being able to even look at something like a social determinant of health like loneliness and predict what that's going to mean for outcomes and what sort of interventions do we put was some unique use cases we got to use using AI on that data platform.
Right. And so when you look at the state of the AI space and specifically in healthcare, there's so much, I guess, change management that's required in healthcare. You've got a lot of people who have existing training for a lot of years, doing things the way they've always done. And all of a sudden now they're being told there are these new tools. There's some fear that there's some, group of people who are more excited and more of those innovators that are like leaning into it.
Yep.
Some of that might relate to just sort of the vintage or age of the people and what their experiences are. But what are you seeing in terms of places where AI can be applied in healthcare that contemplates the fact that you don't want to make it so it's difficult to make that
Right.
change because these folks are already overworked?
Yep. As I've consulted with different companies in healthcare, I really come with a three-layer approach. Starting at the first foundation is how can we upskill your people to utilize off AI tools and just their everyday to become more efficient, right? I mean, there's even just that first step is one of value to all these organizations. The second layer is looking at internal workflows that we can easily add AI to make more efficient, to automate, and to reduce a lot of the manual work that those people can put more creative energy at different tasks than a lot of the manual effort. So looking for those internal processes to automate would be the second layer. And then third, which I encourage companies to get to faster than waiting, is getting to more AI native applications. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but truly thinking about how do we solve their problems, take it down to the studs and really think of it in a new way from an AI first perspective and building product in that more AI native approach. And so each three of those layers is important. And I really encourage companies to do them in parallel as opposed to just waiting for that next layer of innovation.
So we say AI native, and it reminds me of when I first started HC1, we were one of the early players to be fully cloud native in the health tech space. And so this was about a dozen or so years ago. And with the pace of change in technology, at that time, cloud native was a massive leap if you had already built this entrenched, more on-premise kind of technology, or even the kind that was hosted somewhere but wasn't designed to take advantage of all these cloud tools, because the cloud infrastructure providers like AWS and Azure and, the whole litany of providers that are out there, those are the two biggest. Obviously, Oracle's coming on strong now too, making Ellison for a minute the richest person in the world, which is pretty fascinating. But in any event, AI has come on as this big wave of power, just like cloud did relative to more of the incumbents that had been doing the antiquated type of approach where you had to install stuff on servers and so on. So when we started as cloud native, that was a huge leap. Now we're in this world of AI native, which the one way I think about describing that is if you look at the experience that you had with going to the library and trying to find information, and you'd go to the card catalog and, there was this, if most people probably don't even remember that, but there was a thing on the card catalog you would go to and you would look up what you were trying to find. Then you go to the shelves, and then search happened, and ultimately Google's version of search happened and made it so you no longer had to do all that. You would just do a search and you get this whole list. Now, the behavior is you interact with ChatGPT in a way that's like having a conversation. So it completely changes the paradigm. It completely changes the user experience, the user interface. And to me, that's sort of the departure from the historical kind of approach to technology, which is analytics and workflows, moving into the modern AI world where it's more AI native. It's everything's designed from the ground up to say, what is the work that has to happen and how much of it can we make the agent do? Meaning like agentic AI versus like the user. And when the user has to do things, it's more of an interactive approach. So do you agree that that's like the big difference between when somebody says AI versus AI native?
I mean, I think it's moving so fast. I think that's one stage. And the stage we're in today is taking a lot of that human language. What AI is really good at is taking a lot of that human language in and summarizing and spitting back all that information to really get to the main question you have and give you the right answer, right? I would say that where it's going, or at the cusp of, is actually not even making that user ask the question, but for have that ambient or agent in the background, bringing forward those most important things for that kind of human in the loop to then tell it to go take action on. So I think it is stages. What you're talking about is AI native, but I do think there's a little bit of a current trend that when people say that they have AI, they're adding on kind of a chatbot experience onto their current product, which is a great tool, still really valuable. I want to instead of go through a 10-click workflow, I just want to ask it a question or tell it to do something, right? Which is great. But really where we're heading is fully a full new interface that isn't even just chat, that actually brings me forward what I need to know and then just asks, do you want me to go do this for you? Right. And so making us not even have to always ask the right question. It actually is searching for the right questions for us to be asking and then can go take action. And ultimately, we're going to want us to take action in the background without us even having to say yes, right? So it's a pendulum that continues to push forward. And I think chat is kind of the place that most people are interacting today from an interface standpoint.
So the idea being that let's just use the concepts of generative AI and then agentic, which
Yep.
to me means focusing a specific type of AI agent that is generative on a certain type of task that is very defined. And so an example in the HC1 world is closing care gaps. In order to close a care gap with somebody who, for example, anemia, and they are scheduled for surgery, the process of identifying that care gap, communicating to the right people about it, setting up the process of treating that anemia so the person shows up for surgery without being anemic. There are a bunch of steps in there that people have to do now
Right.
that you could theoretically have an agent do.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the example of how a lot of people saw that today is having a person type in, show me 5 people that have these sort of characteristics in our database that may have this care gap, right? Like give me this result. And then the best AI tools will actually say, do you want me to do something about this next? Right. When we talk about ambient or agentic AI, and I know there's a lot of different definitions, but how I like to think about it is that it's actually constantly looking for that information and connecting those dots for you and bringing forward that information to then go take action on. And so it causes the user to be more of an editor of that AI doing the work than it is them taking the first action to go find something for me.
So it's more of the reinforcement learning through human feedback
Right.
approach where
Yep.
the system isn't running just completely autonomous.
Correct.
It has a human giving input, but all the work it would have taken to go find all the people with that care gap, the system has already found all of them. And they're already coming back to the caregiver saying, here are all the people with the care gaps.
Right.
Here's why we have identified them as such. And then the next step is they need to be notified. They need to be scheduled to have the infusion or to
Right.
get whatever the supplement is that they need to address anemia. And that could be the case with whether it's anemia or diabetes or chronic kidney disease or high blood pressure or any other kind of cardiovascular issue.
Right.
All of these things that oftentimes people fall between the cracks. So what do you see as the key elements that are required within a company's technology or underlying assets that position them well for this future versus those companies that are absolutely going to get killed off?
Right.
Because that's going to happen.
Yep. So the first question I ask every company I've gone to work with is, what is your unique data set? Right. I mean, everyone's heard by now, data is the new oil. And it's the new oil because the LLMs and the AI tooling is a commodity, right? It's getting smarter, it's getting better, but the companies that are going to really catapult in this next generation have this unique data set that acts as a moat that's unique to them and differentiating to them, that as that AI gets smarter, right, at the top level, it can mine and come up with all kinds of value adds and impactful insights out of that data over time, right? And I always keep on reminding people, this is the dumbest AI will ever be today, right? It's smarter tomorrow, it's even smarter a year from now. So when you have that rich data that no one else has and can connect those dots, that value is just going to keep increasing, right? And so that data set, one of the first things I asked you is, what is the unique data set here at HC1, right? It got me really excited about HC1's future and everything we can do with it.
So specific to that topic, within HC1, we've got this very powerful approach to closing care gaps using insights from lab data that serve the interests of the patients and of the healthcare system. And the other aspect of it is identifying ways that you can help that healthcare system connect lab insights more effectively across the entire continuum of care.
Right.
So it's in a way been since day one set up to go connect those dots. But what you're describing is the opportunity being now you can take those insights and even more effectively close those gaps and connect those dots and make things more efficient, even faster.
Right.
Because there's better ability to execute that's not only limited by how many people are currently in the office.
And think of it this way, right? Most companies love business intelligence, showing dashboards. But I want to take a look at these reports and I get information from them, right? Machine learning did a great job of harvesting from our data that. But think about where we're going of this personalized healthcare moment, which even right now, if I ask the AI to bring me these 9 people maybe that are part of this care gap, it's going to have a set of actions that are very rudimentary and not customized. Where we're going is that AI will be able to look at HC1's data and actually also look at that person, any other information we have on that person, and actually give a very customized, personalized plan of what to do for that care gap, way beyond just go schedule an appointment, but more something a lot more personalized that now we actually can identify for that patient, here's the best path for them based on all this other data. And it's connecting all those dots. And so it's just going to get smarter and smarter with that, allowing us to give more personalized treatment to those care gaps.
Yeah. So an example I think of is you might have two separate people who get diagnosed with diabetes, but diabetes isn't just one thing. It's that determined that there are multiple different versions of this or flavors of it.
Right.
And because of the technology acting on the insights, it's capable of discerning the difference and making it more personalized so that each individual gets the things that they need. But we had a great guest last week from a telemedicine primary care group called Health Tap, who even described that the observations that can be made over telemedicine for primary care go into very directly understanding more of the social determinants, things like you can more directly understand what that person's juggling in their lives, such that you might know, hey, they really need help with childcare to go to the doctor, transportation, or whatever. And so there's so much more to your health than just what one data point can tell you.
Exactly. I mean, an example from LifeSpark that I like to talk about of when I mentioned the loneliness score, right? It used to be that maybe I'd have a dashboard for social determinant of health of, okay, this person has pretty high chance of loneliness because of XYZ. Pretty basic machine learning to bring me that data, right? But once you start enhancing that data with a lot of other sources, from SDOH, financial data to demographic data, Betty also has a dog. Her family lives 300 miles away. Turns out she goes to the ER just to get some FaceTime with people. That now customized care plan becomes so much more unique when you draw all those different data points and bring it together for a personalized plan for Betty that we just haven't been able to do at scale. We could do it one or two ways with a lot of manpower and a lot of nurses in the field, but to be able to utilize technology to provide that personalized path that then we can carry out for that patient is a huge innovation that AI will present.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just such an interesting area of loneliness and isolation and all of that. And that's become even bigger,
Right.
fortunately. So certainly it's something that needs to be addressed. So when you look at this challenge of navigating an existing established technology business and solution set into more of an AI native world, you've got your existing code base, your existing customers, existing users, and you need to continue to innovate on that core and you have to maintain that core, I should say,
Right.
while you innovate and make progress. And then you talk about doing AI native things and needing to upskill your team. What have you seen as the right or the best way to make that transition from a talent perspective and an underlying tech perspective, preserving that core while stimulating the innovation?
Yep. It's a good call out, right? Because we still every day have to go support our current enterprise systems, right? I think a big thing we haven't talked about here today is how AI is evolving the overall product and development cycle. When we talk about the old agile and design sprints, there is really becoming a new AI sprint. And what does that look like? And that allows us to rapidly shrink the use case, the requirements, the idea someone has, and put that through an even 1 or 2 day cycle to go from research, design, prototype, validation in less than a week, right? So that we can take all these different opportunities within an organization, whether it's internal tooling or AI native application, we can go validate those a lot quicker. So what I've tried to suggest to companies is take the savings you're starting to get from some of the processes like engineering, you're starting to be able to have quicker cycles because of the AI tools. Take some of that capacity and put it towards more AI native or even internal tooling and utilize this new quick design AI sprint process to go validate those things. You can do that. I like to call it thrashing. Thrashing is pretty cheap when you don't write any code yet. You can just do it with all no code tools. Not great for enterprise yet, but currently we can do that and test a lot of these hypotheses and find the right solutions that give the best ROI for you as an organization.
Yeah, that's an incredibly powerful reality that not a lot of companies that are established are taking advantage of yet. Even into the actual software development lifecycle itself, I know there's a startup that I co-founded in the fintech world that is AI native and started from day one using Notion as an underlying technology. And Notion, if you want to send sponsorship dollars, you're welcome to, because we've been happy with it because it applies AI to everything that's getting put into it. And so it helps everybody go further faster by assembling, hey, here's all the input, here's what you should go create. And then ultimately, in that case, a prototyping tool was used by a non-engineer to create a workable prototype that then allows everybody else coming onto the team and prospective users to say, is this on the right track or not on the right track? And as you pointed out, without having to write a line of code, using these no code kinds of models.
Right.
And it's truly the kind of thing that just it would, unless you were a really excellent futurist 10 years ago, you couldn't have predicted that this was going to happen this way. Now, ultimately, when you get into more of the sentient idea, the question starts becoming, do you end up having the code write itself and decide to write something else, on its own? And then it becomes like HAL 9000 and the 2001: A Space Odyssey, who decides that it can't, perform its function, so it wants to kill off the crew. So that's where people start talking also about the ethical concerns and potential future, which sounds funny, but actually it isn't all of that far flung, like, or far fetched. It could actually go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we have to take that into account now. I was out at the AI4 conference in Las Vegas, and there's every session I was as excited as I was nervous, right? Because there's always that side of what happens when we lose control. And so I think for the short term, right, making sure that we do the right infrastructure to host our own AI tooling, so it doesn't have access outside of our company walls, is a big component. I know that there was talk about this has been famous over the last few weeks about giving our AI kind of a maternal instinct, right? Which really caught me off guard. What does that even look like? It's the first time in human history that we've created something smarter than ourselves in all ways, right? Where it's going. What are the sort of kind of internal tooling and prompting we need to give it so that it always has our best interest, the patient's best interest? And so I totally agree that there's a lot of areas and a lot of hype in healthcare. I know MIT came out with that study saying that most AI initiatives are failing right now. And I think that part of the way around that is start utilizing these more no-code solutions to go prove it out before we go implement anything and make sure we're at a high accuracy rate. We have the right humans in the loop to be able to make sure that we have the right controls before we go enterprise-wide. And we can do that with a lot of the tooling now a lot faster than we used to.
Yeah, I'd say as it relates to healthcare, the biggest issue is that you're not eliminating the humans at this point.
Right.
And there are certainly some real hardline futurists that say, look, we're going to have a God model AI that is going to be way better and never get tired and all of that. The reality is in healthcare, there's something that's truly mysterious about the way humans work. And there's something to be said for humans being cared for by other humans who are observant and taking an interest in a lot of factors that aren't just treating another human being like a machine. Because in some ways, absolutely, there are some ways that humans resemble machines, very complex ones. There needs to be a person in that loop. And so I know in our technology companies, it's about how do you give the caregivers what I would consider like bionics? How do you make it so that they can leap a tall building in a single bound as it relates to healthcare, and make it so that you're rising everybody up? It's like a rising tide that makes everybody perform at the highest level. If you could take that one super off the charts, amazing surgeon or any type of a care specialty and make it so everybody was able to perform with the decisions that they would make, that would really be positive for everybody. And also, it would not cause the issues as it relates to the system potentially making the wrong diagnosis. Because in healthcare, unlike, say, email marketing or something where things might go a little haywire, but what's the big deal? You just send spam to somebody that you shouldn't have. In healthcare, you're talking about truly life.
People's lives.
And so we've got to have humans incorporated.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in that. When we would give tooling to nurses in the field to go out and take care of our seniors in their homes, I'd often talk about, we're just giving Superman their cape, right? To your analogy, it's just helping those nurses actually focus on what they do best, the people part, and take away all the note taking and all the manual efforts so they can actually sit there and do what they do best and have that human connection. And that's one of the things I love building technology for the healthcare space is we're not removing the human, right? We have to have the human. There's actually something beautiful about that. As we move, I love the thought that as we move more and more towards intelligent AI, our humanness actually becomes more valuable. And in healthcare, I think that is especially the case.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I think that's a very good point. to wrap this conversation on, I will also mention that HC1, where I'm CEO and Jason is now Chief Product Officer, will have some really exciting announcements coming out at the Health 2025 conference in Vegas later this month. Very thrilled about that. And more than anything, love to show how innovative companies are making patients healthier, millions of patients, by ensuring they're getting the optimal diagnoses, that they're able to prevent disease, that they're able to get better faster. And ultimately, where there is something that's more rare or difficult to treat, even connecting with those precision medicines that are out there,
Right.
the future is so bright in healthcare with this kind of technology done right.
Yeah, I'm so excited for those announcements because we talk about HC1 being at the tip of where a lot of that healthcare progress can start. And it's just the beginning with what we can do with this data set and help all those different providers out there close those care gaps.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. Well, thank you so much
Yeah, it's
for
great to be
being
here.
on the Boombostic Health podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining again for this very important topic of how we're taking existing healthcare technology and bringing it into the AI age. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great day.